Gentleness is often misunderstood. In today's loud and aggressive world, people assume that the soft voice belongs to the weak mind. Marcus Aurelius saw this confusion even in ancient Rome, surrounded by generals, politicians, and men who believed power meant domination. Yet the most powerful man in the empire wrote something radically different in his private journal. He reminded himself that true strength does not shout, it does not crush, it does not need to prove itself. It remains calm while others lose control. Imagine a Roman emperor at dawn, not in armor, not on a battlefield, but alone with his thoughts. He is preparing to face betrayal, criticism, arrogance, and cruelty. He knows the day will test him, and still he tells himself to meet every person with kindness, not because they deserve it, but because this is who he chooses to be. This is not weakness, this is discipline. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that gentleness is not the absence of strength, it is strength under control. Anyone can react with anger, anyone can insult back, anyone can harden their heart when hurt, but it takes a trained mind to remain gentle without surrendering its boundaries. Gentleness, for the Stoic, is not emotional softness, it is moral clarity. In your life, you will meet people who test your patience. They will speak without thinking, they will disrespect your effort, they will mistake your silence for fear. This is where most people fail. They either explode or they shrink. Marcus Aurelius shows a third path. Stay gentle, but do not abandon your principles. Stay calm, but do not allow injustice to shape you. The Stoic idea is simple, but demanding. You do not control how others behave. You control how you respond. Gentleness is not about pleasing people. It is about remaining aligned with your values even when provoked. Weakness reacts to pressure. Strength absorbs it and transforms it into wisdom. When Marcus Aurelius wrote about being kind, he did not mean being passive, he meant being unshakable. He believed that a good person does not become cruel just because the world is cruel. Just as a fig tree produces figs without announcing it, a virtuous person practices gentleness without seeking approval. Think about this carefully. If your kindness disappears the moment you are challenged, then it was never strength, it was comfort. Real gentleness survives discomfort. It survives disrespect. It survives loneliness. It does not need applause to exist. This is the beginning of understanding how to remain gentle without becoming weak. It starts by realizing that your calm is not a gift to others. It is a discipline for yourself. Most people confuse gentleness with agreement. They think being calm means surrendering. Marcus Aurelius rejected this idea completely. He ruled an empire through wars, plagues, and betrayal, yet he refused to let bitterness define him. He understood something most people never learn. You can be firm without being cruel. You can be kind without being controlled. Picture a moment where someone challenges you unfairly. They raise their voice, they provoke, they expect a reaction. In that moment, two paths appear. One path leads to anger, ego, and regret. The other path leads to quiet strength. Marcus Aurelius would pause there. He would remind himself that the soul becomes shaped by what it repeatedly allows. If you allow rage to guide you, you become rage. If you allow patience to guide you, you become grounded. Gentleness, in Stoic philosophy, is not emotional vulnerability exposed to harm. It is emotional mastery. It is knowing exactly who you are and refusing to let another person pull you away from that center. Weakness hands control to others. Gentleness takes it back without force. There is a line Marcus Aurelius returns to again and again. Do not be dragged by impressions. When someone insults you, the insult itself is nothing. It is only sound and breath. The injury happens only if you accept the judgment behind it. A gentle mind observes without immediately reacting. This pause is where strength lives. Think of a seasoned warrior who does not draw his sword at every noise. He knows when action is required and when restraint is wiser. The Stoic practices this same discipline in daily life. Not every disrespect deserves your energy. Not every conflict deserves your voice. Silence, when chosen deliberately, is not submission. It is control. People may try to take advantage of your calm nature. Marcus Aurelius was aware of this danger. That is why he constantly reminded himself to be both gentle and just. Gentleness without justice becomes weakness. Justice without gentleness becomes cruelty. The balance between the two is the mark of a strong character. You do not need to harden your heart to survive this world. You need to strengthen your judgment. The moment you stop trying to dominate others and start mastering yourself, you step into real power. Gentleness then becomes a shield, not an open wound. This is why the Stoic remains calm under pressure, not because they feel nothing, but because they feel deeply and still choose restraint. This choice, repeated daily, turns gentleness into an unbreakable force. There comes a moment in life when you realize that raising your voice does not raise your authority. Marcus Aurelius understood this long before modern psychology gave it names. He saw men who shouted commands yet were internally afraid, and others who spoke softly but carried unshakable presence. He chose the second path, not because it was easier, but because it demanded more self-command. Gentleness, when rooted in self-respect, creates a quiet gravity. People feel it even if they cannot explain it. It is the calm of someone who does not need validation. The Stoic does not seek dominance over others because he has already established order within himself. When you are internally aligned, there is no hunger to overpower, no urge to humiliate, no fear of being overlooked. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that nature itself operates this way. The strongest forces are often invisible. Gravity does not announce itself. Time does not argue. The sun does not demand obedience. And yet everything responds. Gentleness carries the same silent authority when it is grounded in reason. Many people believe that if they soften their tone, the world will walk over them. But the emperor-philosopher observed the opposite. Those who react aggressively reveal their insecurity. Those who remain composed communicate certainty. When you do not rush to defend your ego, people sense that your worth does not depend on their opinion. This is where gentleness transforms into leadership, not leadership of titles or crowds, but leadership of presence. Marcus Aurelius led armies, but he also led by example in how he treated insult, failure, and loss. He wrote to himself that the best revenge is not to become like the one who wronged you. This single idea carries immense power. It means your character is not negotiable no matter the pressure. Think about how often people abandon their values to win arguments, to feel superior, or to avoid appearing weak. In doing so, they lose the very strength they were trying to protect. Gentleness refuses thee. It says that dignity is worth more than victory, and self-command is worth more than applause. Remaining gentle does not mean allowing repeated harm. Marcus Aurelius was clear about boundaries. He believed in justice, order, and responsibility, but he believed these could be enforced without hatred. A firm decision delivered calmly carries more weight than a furious outburst. When consequences are given without anger, they feel inevitable rather than personal. This is difficult. It requires you to separate emotion from action. It requires patience when instinct demands reaction. The Stoic trains this skill daily. Every irritation becomes practice. Every delay becomes training. Every insult becomes a test of inner stability. There is something deeply unsettling to others when you do not react as expected. When someone tries to provoke you and finds no chaos to feed on, they are forced to confront themselves. Your gentleness becomes a mirror. It exposes their unrest without you saying a word. Marcus Aurelius often reflected on the shortness of life. From that perspective, how small most conflicts appear, how pointless most ego battles become. Gentleness grows naturally when you understand how brief your time is. You stop wasting energy on proving yourself. You focus instead on being worthy of your own respect. The weak person avoids conflict out of fear. The gentle person chooses calm out of wisdom. This distinction matters. Fear shrinks you. Wisdom stabilizes you. One comes from insecurity, the other comes from clarity. Marcus Aurelius trained himself to act from the second place even when emotions surged. Gentleness also protects the mind. Anger leaves residue, resentment lingers. Harshness reshapes your inner world until peace feels unfamiliar. The Stoic avoids this by refusing to let external chaos colonize his inner life. He meets turbulence with steadiness, not because he is numb, but because he values his inner harmony above temporary satisfaction. This is not an overnight transformation. Marcus Aurelius did not wake up enlightened. He practiced, he failed, he reminded himself again and again. Gentleness is built through repetition, through conscious pauses, through choosing restraint even when it feels unnatural. As you live this way, something changes. People begin to listen differently. Your words carry weight because they are not wasted. Your silence communicates more than shouting ever could. You become someone whose presence calms rather than inflames. This is not weakness. This is influence at its purest form. And when moments come that demand firmness, your gentleness gives it credibility, because people know it is not your default reaction. They understand that if you speak firmly, it is reason speaking, not ego. This balance is rare. This balance is powerful. Marcus Aurelius believed that the soul should remain upright under all conditions, not stiff, not rigid, but steady, like a pillar that supports without aggression. Gentleness is that pillar. It holds your character intact while the world presses against it. To remain gentle without becoming weak is to live with inner authority. It is to let your actions speak quietly and consistently. It is to choose strength that does not need noise to exist. Marcus Aurelius understood that the world does not reward virtue immediately. Often, it tests it first. This is why remaining gentle requires courage. It is easy to be calm when things go your way. It is much harder when you are misunderstood, overlooked, or treated unfairly. Yet this is exactly where gentleness proves its strength. A hostile world tries to shape you into its image. It whispers that you must harden, strike first, protect yourself through aggression. Marcus Aurelius refused this karoo. He believed that losing your character is a greater defeat than losing any argument. The Stoic does not ask how to win against others. He asks how to remain whole. Self-respect is born from consistency. When your actions align with your principles, you trust yourself. Gentleness plays a crucial role here. Every time you respond calmly instead of impulsively, you reinforce your inner authority. You become someone you can rely on. Weakness depends on external validation. Gentleness depends on internal agreement. Many people become harsh because they are afraid of being ignored. They mistake noise for presence. Marcus Aurelius knew that presence does not come from volume, it comes from clarity. When you speak only when necessary, your words arrive with weight. When you remain composed, people sense that you are not easily moved, and therefore not easily manipulated. Stoic philosophy teaches that most harm comes not from events, but from judgments. Gentleness allows you to suspend judgment long enough to see clearly. Instead of reacting to how something feels, you respond to what it is. This distinction protects dignity. It keeps you from being dragged into unnecessary battles that leave you drained and diminished. There is moral courage in gentleness. It takes bravery to refuse cruelty when cruelty is convenient. It takes strength to remain fair when others choose hostility. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself that what does not make a person worse cannot truly harm them. Losing patience makes you worse. Losing kindness reshapes you into something you never intended to become. Gentleness also creates inner freedom. When you no longer feel compelled to react, you are free. You are not enslaved by moods, insults, or expectations. You move through life with deliberate choice. This is the Stoic ideal, not detachment from life, but mastery within it. The gentle purrs. On does not suppress emotion, they observe it. Anger may arise, but it does not rule. Hurt may appear, but it does not decide. This inner observation gives space between stimulus and response. Marcus Aurelius lived in that space. That space is where wisdom operates. Over time, this way of living reshapes your identity. You stop asking how to appear strong and start asking how to be just. You stop trying to control others and start governing yourself. Gentleness becomes your default, not because you are passive, but because you are settled. Even when firmness is required, it emerges cleanly. No bitterness, no resentment, just clarity. This is why Stoic firmness feels different. It does not seek revenge, it seeks order. It does not wound, it corrects. Marcus Aurelius believed that each person is part of a greater whole. Acting with gentleness preserves harmony without erasing boundaries. You can say no without hostility. You can walk away without resentment. You can correct without humiliating. These are not small skills. They are marks of maturity. In the end, gentleness protects what matters most: your character, your peace, your ability to look at yourself without regret. When the noise fades and the crowd disappears, you are left with your own mind. Marcus Aurelius lived for that moment. He wanted a mind that could rest without accusation. This is why remaining gentle is not a weakness to outgrow. It is a strength to refine, a discipline to return to, a quiet courage that carries you through conflict without costing you yourself. To remain gentle without being weak, you must first accept the limits of what you can control. Marcus Aurelius reminds us repeatedly that we cannot dictate the actions of others, nor their opinions, nor the injustices they commit. What we can control is our own mind, our own choices, and our own responses. Gentleness grows from this understanding. When you no longer attempt to force the world into your image, you conserve energy and protect your peace. Consider how often people exhaust themselves trying to dominate situations. They argue, they react, they escalate, and yet their inner life suffers. The Stoic sees this clearly. Strength is measured not by how loudly you assert it, but by how steadfastly you maintain composure. Each moment of calm in the face of provocation is a victory of the spirit over impulse. Gentleness also commands respect in ways that aggression never can. When someone is consistently calm, they draw others in. Their words carry more weight. Their actions create influence quietly but firmly. Marcus Aurelius observed that true authority comes not from fear or force, but from moral consistency. A person who rules themselves with care and wisdom is a beacon. Others unconsciously follow. At the heart of gentleness lies patience. Patience to endure slights, patience to observe before reacting, patience to allow situations to unfold naturally. Marcus Aurelius writes about life as a series of lessons, each encounter a chance to practice virtue. To remain gentle is to train patience, to convert irritation into observation and confusion into clarity. There is also courage in gentleness, courage not of swords but of the soul. It is easy to lash out when wronged. It is much harder to respond with restraint, to speak thoughtfully, to maintain dignity. The Stoic practices this courage daily, understanding that yielding to emotion can erode character faster than any external attack. Gentleness without boundaries becomes vulnerability. Marcus Aurelius makes clear that wisdom always includes discernment. You remain gentle, but you also remain firm in what you accept. You protect yourself without attacking. You respond without overreacting. You lead by example without trying to dominate. This delicate balance is where the power of gentleness resides. Imagine living each day with this principle, facing criticism without bitterness, disappointment without despair, and insult without retaliation. Every choice you make reinforces your inner stability. Each act of calm is a brick in the foundation of your character. Over time, people notice. Influence grows quietly, organically, without force or intimidation. Gentleness also fosters clarity of thought. Anger clouds judgment. Impulse distorts perception. Calmness illuminates truth. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself that his mind is his most valuable possession. Protecting it through gentleness allows reason to operate freely, enabling decisions guided by principle rather than passion. Finally, gentleness is contagious. The more you practice it, the more it spreads. People respond to it naturally. Conflicts de-escalate. Tension softens. Leadership emerges not from commands, but from presence. This is how a strong mind nurtures the world around it without compromising its own integrity. To live this way is to embrace a Stoic ideal, strength tempered with kindness, firmness guided by wisdom, authority expressed through restraint. Marcus Aurelius teaches that the true measure of a person is not in victory over others, but mastery over oneself. When gentleness and strength coexist, you achieve that mastery. It is a quiet power, unshakable, deeply compelling, and eternally resilient. The path of gentleness without weakness is not easy. It is a constant practice, a daily discipline, and a conscious choice in every interaction. Marcus Aurelius understood that life will challenge you relentlessly. People will provoke, circumstances will frustrate, and the world will test your resolve. Yet he also knew that how you meet these challenges defines your character far more than the events themselves. Every day, why presents opportunities to practice this quiet strength. You may face anger, criticism, or betrayal. You may feel the instinct to strike back, to harden, to let frustration guide your actions. And yet each moment is a chance to pause, to choose calm, to act in accordance with reason, to remain gentle while standing firm. This is where true power resides, not in loudness, not in force, not in the domination of others, but in the mastery of oneself. Gentleness, when anchored in wisdom, becomes armor. It protects the mind from chaos, the soul from corruption, and the heart from bitterness. It does not retreat in the face of challenge. It does not bend under pressure. It holds boundaries without aggression, exercises restraint without passivity, and commands respect without demand. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that our time is brief and the world's opinion is fleeting. Why waste energy in petty battles or reactive anger? Why compromise the integrity of your inner life for temporary satisfaction? To remain gentle is to invest in something far greater, the enduring strength of a disciplined mind, a peaceful heart, and a life lived with dignity. Let this be your guiding principle. Let gentleness shape your reactions, your decisions, and your interactions. Let it be the force that grounds you when storms arise, the light that steadies you when emotions flare, and the shield that preserves your character when the world pushes against you. The Stoic way teaches that calmness, clarity, and compassion are not signs of weakness, but of wisdom and strength. When you practice gentleness consistently, you transform not only yourself, but also the world around you. Your influence becomes quiet, yet unshakable. Your presence becomes a source of stability, and your life becomes a testament to the power of inner mastery. In the end, gentleness without weakness is more than a choice. It is the embodiment of virtue. It is the reflection of a mind that values reason over impulse, integrity over ego, and peace over conflict. Marcus Aurelius lived this truth, and so can you. Stand firm, speak with clarity, move through the world with calm authority, remain gentle, and in that gentleness find your greatest strength. Life constantly tests the balance between gentleness and strength. Marcus Aurelius lived surrounded by power struggles, betrayals, and endless expectations, yet he consistently returned to the principle that the true measure of a person is the mastery of the self, not the domination of others. Every interaction becomes a lesson. Every provocation becomes an opportunity. To remain gentle is not to give in. It is to observe, to respond deliberately, and to maintain control of the mind and heart under pressure. Imagine facing a colleague who seeks to undermine you, a friend who betrays trust, or a stranger who insults you without reason. The instinct of the untrained mind is to react, to lash out, to defend, to prove oneself. The Stoic path offers an alternative, far more powerful. Pause, observe, and choose a response that aligns with reason and virtue. Gentleness here is the conscious refusal to let external circumstances dictate internal chaos. It is the choice to remain rooted while storms rage around you. Marcus Aurelius wrote extensively about the distinction between what is in our control and what is not. People often mistake gentleness for weakness because they fail to grasp this distinction. It is not weakness to refuse unnecessary confrontation. It is not weakness to remain calm when provoked. On the contrary, it is a sign of strength, a strength forged by discipline, reflection, and the deliberate shaping of one's character. In practical terms, this means responding with clarity rather than reaction. When faced with insult, recognize that the insult itself carries no inherent power. Only your acceptance or rejection of it can give it influence. By choosing gentleness, you preserve energy, maintain moral integrity, and communicate authority without aggression. This form of strength is subtle but unshakable, and over time it becomes deeply influential. People respect it instinctively because it emanates from self-control rather than coercion. Daily life offers countless opportunities to practice this kind of controlled gentleness. A rude customer, a critical colleague, a contentious family member, a frustrating situation, each moment becomes a test of your discipline. Marcus Aurelius emphasizes that these tests are not punishments, but exercises in virtue. Every encounter you approach calmly strengthens your capacity to maintain integrity, reduces internal suffering, and reinforces your moral framework. Yet gentleness must be anchored by justice and wisdom. Marcus Aurelius warns against allowing softness to become permissiveness. Boundaries are essential. Acting gently does not mean tolerating repeated harm or injustice. It means approaching every situation with discernment, knowing when to act, how to act, and when to remain silent. This balance between restraint and action defines the Stoic's inner authority. It prevents gentleness from degenerating into weakness. Consider the Stoic understanding of anger. Anger is a natural emotion, but it is a signal that the mind is being led by impulse rather than reason. Marcus Aurelius encourages observing anger without succumbing to it. A gentle person can experience frustration, but they do not allow it to dictate speech or behavior. This requires patience, reflection, and the repeated practice of self-command. Over time, the mind trained in this way becomes resilient, composed, and capable of profound influence. Another key aspect is the distinction between internal and external power. Many people believe power is demonstrated through dominance or intimidation. The Stoic knows that the greatest power resides within, the ability to maintain composure, to act from principle, to remain unshaken by the unpredictable behavior of others. Gentleness reinforces this internal power. By refusing to be dragged into conflict unnecessarily, you preserve energy, maintain focus, and communicate authority more convincingly than through force. This philosophy extends to relationships, leadership, and community. Gentle individuals inspire loyalty, trust, and cooperation. People naturally gravitate toward those who display calm assurance and moral integrity. Marcus Aurelius's leadership exemplified this. He could command armies, yet his moral authority derived from the consistency of his character, not the threat of punishment. Similarly, in your own life, gentleness combined with clear boundaries fosters respect and influence without requiring aggression. One must also recognize the temporal perspective Marcus Aurelius emphasizes. Life is fleeting, and most conflicts are trivial in the grand scheme of existence. When you perceive insults, frustration, or opposition through this lens, gentleness becomes easier to practice. It is not surrender, it is perspective. It is the conscious choice to invest energy wisely, to preserve the integrity of your mind, and to act in alignment with enduring values rather than transient provocation. The cultivation of gentleness also encourages self-reflection. Each test of patience becomes an opportunity to examine your motives, reactions, and emotional patterns. The Stoic journaled not merely to record events, but to interrogate himself: did I act from reason? Did I allow anger or pride to influence my response? Could I have approached the situation more wisely, more calmly, more firmly? By integra. Ting gentleness with continuous self-observation, the mind becomes a disciplined instrument of virtue rather than a slave to impulse. Ultimately, remaining gentle without being weak is the art of controlled strength. It is a continuous practice of maintaining composure, acting from principle, and navigating life's challenges with calm authority. Marcus Aurelius shows that this path is not only possible, but profoundly effective. It preserves dignity, strengthens character, protects mental peace, and fosters genuine influence. In every choice, From the smallest interaction to the most significant decision, gentleness shapes character. It transforms ordinary moments into exercises in self-mastery. The Stoic understands that the measure of a life is not in victories over others, but in mastery over self. When gentleness and strength coexist, the individual becomes both unshakable and deeply compelling. This is the enduring wisdom Marcus Aurelius offers, that gentleness, far from being weakness, is the ultimate expression of moral courage and personal power. Leadership and influence are often misunderstood in the modern world. Many equate authority with aggression, volume, or intimidation. Marcus Aurelius teaches otherwise. True leadership flows from inner mastery. A person who remains gentle while facing difficulty commands far more respect than one who dominates through fear. When you maintain composure in the face of provocation, people feel your presence without the need for coercion. Your calm becomes your authority, your restraint becomes your influence, and your consistency becomes your legacy. Gentleness in leadership does not mean passivity, it means clarity of purpose. A Stoic leader is deliberate in action and deliberate in restraint. Every decision is measured against reason, justice, and long-term consequences. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to weigh each response carefully, when to act firmly, when to observe silently, and when to guide through example rather than command. Leadership grounded in gentleness preserves relationships, builds trust, and encourages cooperation naturally. Consider a situation where pressure mounts and those around you react impulsively. Anger flares, fear spreads, and confusion threatens to overtake reason. A gentle yet firm response cuts through the noise. Calm words, measured actions, and deliberate choices stabilize the environment. Marcus Aurelius exemplified this in governance and war alike. He could confront chaos without being consumed by it, and his presence provided security simply because his mind was steady. In daily life, this principle applies equally. In family dynamics, friendships, or workplaces, challenges arise that test patience and character. Responding aggressively or defensively may provide temporary relief or satisfy pride, but it erodes trust and diminishes long-term influence. Choosing gentleness, however, creates clarity, models restraint, and subtly reshapes the behavior of others. Influence through example is always stronger than influence through force. Gentleness also amplifies moral authority. When people perceive that you act from reason rather than impulse, they instinctively respect your judgment. When a leader remains calm under adversity, it signals competence, stability, and wisdom. Marcus Aurelius often wrote about the importance of setting an example. Others observe your character, and through that observation, they learn how to behave. By cultivating gentleness, you teach others restraint, patience, and ethical action without saying a word. Importantly, gentleness in leadership preserves the well-being of the self. Aggression and impatience deplete energy, disturb focus, and cloud judgment. The Stoic mind guards against this by choosing calm over chaos. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to protect his inner life, understanding that the mind is the source of all true action. A gentle leader therefore acts not from irritation or ego, but from principle and foresight. In high-stress situations, the distinction between gentleness and weakness becomes crucial. External pressures may be intense, injustice, betrayal, or miscommunication may arise. A weak mind reacts impulsively, escalating conflict. A gentle mind observes, evaluates, and responds with measured action. By maintaining this balance, you not only protect your own peace, but also create an environment in which others feel safe, understood, and guided by reason rather than fear. Gentleness does not require constant compromise. Marcus Aurelius believed in firm boundaries, enforcing justice, and taking decisive action when necessary. What differentiates a gentle Stoic leader from the impatient or the aggressive is the integration of restraint with resolve. Firm action delivered calmly carries far more weight than reactive fury. It demonstrates authority grounded in wisdom rather than emotion, and it inspires confidence in those who witness it. The practice of gentleness strengthens influence incrementally. Every choice to respond with composure reinforces credibility. Every instance of self-control strengthens presence. Over time, this creates a reputation of reliability, integrity, and stability. People are drawn to those who embody calm authority because it signals that decisions are guided by reason, not impulse. Marcus Aurelius's leadership exemplified this. His moral consistency and gentle firmness left a legacy far more enduring than any fleeting display of power. Finally, gentleness protects the mind from the corrosive effects of anger, resentment, and haste. A mind consumed by reactive impulses is vulnerable to error and moral compromise. By practicing gentleness, you maintain clarity, preserve judgment, and cultivate wisdom. The Stoic path integrates this practice into every aspect of life: leadership, relationships, conflict, and personal growth. Gentleness becomes a shield, a guide, and a source of enduring influence. Through this disciplined approach, you begin to see a profound truth. Gentleness is not passive. It is a deliberate, courageous, and disciplined choice. It commands attention, respect, and loyalty without force. It protects character while shaping the world subtly but powerfully. Marcus Aurelius teaches that the most enduring influence arises not from domination or fear, but from calm, reasoned, and principled action. Gentleness, when applied with firmness, becomes the ultimate expression of moral authority and personal power. The practice of gentleness is not reserved for moments of comfort. It is tested most in adversity. Life is unpredictable, full of people who push boundaries, circumstances that challenge patience, and situations that provoke frustration. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the strength of character is revealed not in ease, but in these moments of pressure. To remain gentle is to exercise control over the mind, to act in accordance with principle, and to maintain clarity when others around you succumb to chaos. Every day offers countless opportunities to practice this discipline. A rude comment, an unexpected setback, a disagreement, or a betrayal, all of these are exercises for the soul. Marcus Aurelius treated life as a continuous training ground for virtue. Gentleness in these instances is a deliberate choice, not a reaction. It is the quiet assertion of reason over impulse, the steady reinforcement of moral integrity, and the cultivation of inner freedom. Consider how often people respond to irritation with anger or to disrespect with retaliation. These reactions may feel justified, but they weaken the mind over time. They entangle you in cycles of bitterness and distraction. Gentleness, in contrast, preserves focus, protects the spirit, and strengthens influence. It allows you to act decisively when necessary, without the residue of uncontrolled emotion. Marcus Aurelius observed that the mind must remain uncorrupted by fleeting disturbances. This is the essence of Stoic discipline. Gentleness also nurtures self-respect. When you respond thoughtfully, rather than react impulsively, you honor your own values. Every act of restraint reinforces the understanding that your worth is not determined by external events. The Stoic mind becomes a fortress of calm. External chaos may attempt to penetrate it, but gentleness forms the walls, reason provides the structure, and virtue secures the gates. In relationships, gentleness fosters trust and cooperation. People gravitate toward those who remain composed, fair, and principled under pressure. Aggression may command attention briefly, but it rarely cultivates loyalty. Marcus Aurelius exemplified this principle. He led not through fear or domination, but through moral consistency and deliberate action. His influence was subtle yet profound, inspiring obedience, respect, and admiration without relying on coercion. Gentleness also provides clarity of judgment. A calm mind observes more accurately, weighs options more effectively, and makes decisions aligned with long-term goals rather than immediate impulses. Anger, resentment, and panic cloud perception and erode discernment. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to see events objectively, understanding that external challenges are opportunities to practice virtue, not threats to his integrity. Importantly, Gentleness does not mean passivity or weakness. It is a form of active strength. It requires courage to remain calm when provoked, discipline to act justly when tempted to react, and wisdom to maintain boundaries without cruelty. Marcus Aurelius viewed this as the highest form of self-mastery, the ability to navigate life with reason, clarity, and moral purpose while remaining composed in the face of adversity. Daily application of this philosophy transforms ordinary life. Each moment becomes an opportunity to strengthen character, responding calmly to criticism, handling setbacks with patience, maintaining composure under pressure. These actions shape the mind into a resilient instrument of virtue. The gentle Stoic is not passive. They are deliberate, aware, and consistently aligned with principle. As you practice gentleness, you discover that it enhances influence naturally. People respect those who act from reason rather than impulse. They trust those who respond with measured thought rather than emotion. Leadership emerges through calm authority, not coercion. Marcus Aurelius exemplified this subtle but powerful influence, demonstrating that a disciplined mind is more compelling than any display of brute force. Ultimately, gentleness without weakness is the synthesis of strength and virtue. It is courage expressed through calmness, authority expressed through restraint, and influence expressed through moral consistency. Marcus Aurelius teaches that the greatest power lies not in dominating others, but in mastering oneself. When gentleness guides action, character remains intact, influence grows quietly yet profoundly, and life is lived with dignity, clarity, and enduring wisdom. To truly remain gentle without becoming weak is to embrace a way of life, not simply a tactic for moments of stress. Marcus Aurelius constantly reflected on the nature of human character, understanding that virtue is developed through practice, repeated choices, and conscious reflection. Life will inevitably present situations designed to test patience, provoke anger, and tempt you to abandon calmness for immediate reaction. How you respond in these moments determines not only your character, but also your influence, your peace, and the legacy of your actions. Gentleness is not born in comfort. It is forged in challenge. It requires the courage to meet frustration without fury, to face disrespect without resentment, and to encounter injustice without abandoning principle. Marcus Aurelius often reminded himself that external events are neither good nor bad in themselves. They gain their value only through the judgments we attach to them. A gentle mind refuses to attach destructive judgments. It observes clearly, acts deliberately, and preserves integrity above temporary satisfaction. Consider a moment in your own life where someone provokes you, either through words or actions. The instinct is to react, to assert dominance, to defend, to retaliate. The untrained mind surrenders to emotion. The gentle mind, by contrast, pauses. It breathes. It measures the situation against reason and principle. It responds not from impulse, but from careful deliberation. In this pause lies immense power. Power that is quiet yet unshakable, subtle yet profound, invisible yet universally recognized. Marcus Aurelius lived this truth daily, demonstrating that calm presence can command more respect than any raised voice or aggressive action. Gentleness requires boundaries. Marcus Aurelius understood that a lack of firmness corrupts virtue. To remain gentle is not to tolerate repeated harm or injustice. It is to act with discernment, to know when to correct, when to withdraw, and when to maintain silence. Strength is expressed through clarity of action, and gentleness is its vehicle. Every action, when guided by principle and executed with calm, carries weight far beyond that of impulsive aggression. Patience is a cornerstone of this practice. Life will inevitably present challenges, and people will act in ways that irritate, frustrate, or wound. Marcus Aurelius reflected that anger and resentment only harm the one who holds them. They cloud judgment, distort perception, and erode inner peace. By cultivating patience, the mind becomes resilient. Challenges are no longer disruptions, but exercises in self-mastery. Every encounter becomes a rehearsal for virtue. Every provocation a training in restraint. Gentleness also nurtures self-respect. Each time you choose calm over reaction, reason over impulse, and principle over pride, you reinforce your alignment with your values. Your sense of self becomes independent of the world's approval or hostility. This is the essence of Stoic freedom. Freedom from the tyranny of external events, the unpredictability of others, and the illusions of ego-driven satisfaction. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that the only domain truly under our control is the mind. Protect it with gentleness, and you preserve what is most valuable. Leadership, influence, and human connection are magnified through gentleness. A person who acts with calm authority inspires trust, loyalty, and cooperation. Aggression may produce temporary compliance, but it rarely fosters genuine respect. Marcus Aurelius led with both strength and restraint. His influence emerged not from fear, but from the consistency, clarity, and moral weight of his actions. Similarly, in daily life, gentleness combined with firm boundaries cultivates influence that is subtle yet enduring, persuasive yet non-coercive. Every decision, from the smallest interaction to the greatest challenge, becomes a test of gentleness. How you respond to criticism, setbacks, or provocation reveals the depth of your self-mastery. Each choice to act deliberately, rather than react impulsively, strengthens character. Each act of restraint reinforces internal authority. Over time, these repeated choices shape a life of integrity, wisdom, and calm influence. Marcus Aurelius also emphasizes perspective. Most frustrations are fleeting, most provocations are trivial in the grand scheme of existence. Viewing life through this lens diminishes the perceived necessity of reactive aggression. Anger, resentment, and fear become less compelling. Gentleness, grounded in this awareness, becomes easier to practice. It is not surrender. It is a recognition of what is truly important, the cultivation of a mind that is steady, virtuous, and free. Gentleness is a form of moral courage. It requires bravery to act with patience when provoked, to speak truth calmly when challenged, and to maintain integrity when surrounded by injustice. Marcus Aurelius repeatedly writes that the soul must remain upright under all conditions. Gentleness is the expression of this uprightness, firm yet kind, assertive yet calm, principled yet compassionate. It is courage in action, wisdom in practice, and influence in its purest form. The combination of gentleness and strength produces clarity. It protects the mind from the corrosive effects of unrestrained emotion. It allows reason to operate freely. It ensures that actions are guided by principle rather than impulse. A gentle mind can respond decisively when necessary, but it never acts out of fear, anger, or pride. Marcus Aurelius understood that true power is invisible, residing not in force over others, but in mastery of the self. Over time, this disciplined practice transforms ordinary life into a continuous exercise in virtue. Each encounter becomes a lesson, each challenge an opportunity, each provocation a chance to refine character. Gentleness reinforces patience, strengthens judgment, and fosters moral courage. Strength becomes refined, influence becomes subtle, and the soul becomes resilient. This is the Stoic ideal, to act in alignment with virtue regardless of circumstance, and to let calm authority define presence. Ultimately, gentleness without weakness is the synthesis of strength, wisdom, and integrity. It is a deliberate choice to act from reason, a commitment to maintain clarity under pressure, and a practice that nurtures self-respect, influence, and peace. Marcus Aurelius lived this truth, teaching through both words and example that real power resides in the calm, measured, principled individual who commands respect not through force but through the consistent embodiment of virtue. To live in this way is to cultivate enduring strength. It is to navigate life with patience, clarity, and moral authority. It is to act decisively without bitterness, to maintain boundaries without cruelty, and to influence others without domination. Gentleness, practiced with discipline and wisdom, becomes a shield for the mind, a guide for action, and a source of influence that outlasts fleeting events. In every decision, every encounter, and every challenge, remember Marcus Aurelius's lesson: your mind is your kingdom. Protect it with gentleness, strengthen it with discipline, guard it with virtue, and in doing so you will find a power that is quiet, enduring, and irresistible. You will discover that gentleness, far from being weakness, is the highest form of strength, a strength that shapes your life, your character, and the world around you in ways that aggression and force never could. Nd firm. Speak with clarity, act with principle, move through the world with calm authority, remain gentle, and in that gentleness discover the unshakable strength that defines a life truly lived. Marcus Aurelius's wisdom reminds us that virtue is not measured by victories over others, but by mastery over self. Let gentleness be your path, your armor, and your legacy. In this balance lies freedom, influence, and the enduring power of a disciplined soul.